wine and also jet lag. And so I'm totally dizzy, and it's I've the feeling I've seen 10 movies, but it's just spaghetti vongole.
It's truth serum. We're gonna wear you down and get the truth out of you. But I'm Peter DeBruge, your friendly neighborhood film critic from Variety Magazine, and it's an honor for me to meet Christian tonight, as I'm sure everyone in this house is here because you know his work prior, and we're discovering AFIRE now that it's open here in the States. But how many of you have seen, I'm sure you've seen others of his films, but Undine, your film before this. Those two films, they're kind of talking to each other. Some people have even said it's part of a trilogy, but tell us just kind of like how this grew out of or on top of Undine.
When we have finished Undine, Paula Bear, the actress, and me, we are invited to Paris because there was also press thing and we have to work. And we have also an interpreter, yeah, because we can't speak, Paula can speak French, but I cannot. And the interpreter during the press conference falls down helplessly, yeah? And we try to help him, and we infected ourselves with COVID because he has COVID. And we are the first German COVID patients, Paula and me, in March 2020. And we have to go back to Berlin on the last plane from Paris because before the lockdown works. And we received a present by Film de Losange, this is a distribution and co-production company, also from Eric Romer, and we received the whole work of Eric Romer, 20 Blu-rays and DVDs with us. And so when I had to lay down in bed for 4 weeks with this fever, and there was no silver lining of vaccine in the future, and after 1 week of Netflix, I was totally depressed. And, I opened this Eric Romer box, and this was my vaccine for the next weeks. And I have written a script based on a novel by Georges Simenon, and it was a dystopia movie. And I started thinking about many subjects in themes. And one of the subjects was I don't like dystopia movies anymore. Because they try to clean our world and want to put all the things away which are weak and complex and want to create a new world. And I like our world, yeah? And I want to make a movie of our world. And so I put this dystopia, this jet lag makes me a little bit out of control.
You're doing great.
My answers are 20 minutes. Because I'm in my own bubble now. And like in the time when I had COVID, I was also monologized the world. And I started to write something new, and I thought about so many things about this Eric Romer movies, well, based mostly in summer, and they have a sentimentality, and they have something we have lost, yeah? Something. Then I started thinking about summer movies in the history of cinema, and why there are summer movies in Sweden, like My Summer with Monica by Ingmar Bergman, why we have so many French summer movies by Eric Romer or Jacques Regret and Guillaume Braque, and we have these fantastic American summer movies which are mostly horror movies. But they're also summer movies. You have a group, young women and men, high school finished, there's a summer without parents, without university, without factory, without work, just freedom, and they have a car, and there's a last petrol station. Someone said there's a fantastic shortcut. In the cabin in the wood, there's a guy who has problems with his sexuality, and he's a chainsaw. And I like this movie. And I thought, what is happening to Germany that we don't have summer movies? Our summer movies are often like this. There's a guy who's studying in Berlin. It's summer, and he returned to the house of his parents in the west. And his mother and father wait for him, and he said, I think I'm homosexual, so we have a story. Yeah? And the stories are really boring. And at the end of the summer, he knows he's hetero, and everything's clear. Yeah?
You know, I go to the Berlin Film Festival every year, and it's miserable. It's like the worst time of the year to be there. It's frozen, you're slipping and breaking parts of your body. And everyone says, no, but Berlin's great, you have to come back in the summer. So like one year I came back after Cannes, it's like the last week of May, first week of June, and it rains the whole time. Like Berlin's a place where like, apparently you lay out naked in the parks in summer and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's right.
and so I complained, like, you know, like I'm here in the beginning of June, and they said, no, you have to come back in the summer.
Yeah.
I was like, well, when is summer? And they said, well, it's basically from the second week of July until the first week of August. Maybe that's why there's no German summer movies.
We have in France it's like this. We have the whole July and the August is summer.
Okay.
2 months. Yeah? In Berlin, it's, you know, Germany is a federal state. We have many summers. Some of them start in June, some in September. So we have no real summer for a story. We have so many federal summers but the stories are all the same. The guy who thinks he's homosexual in Bavaria or Berlin is always the same story. But we have, I think, my theory, and sometimes the theories are from idiot, and from a fever idiot, but I think this fever is not so bad. We have this movie by Billy Wilder, Fred Zinman, Edgar Ulmer, and Robert Siodmak from 1930, People of Sunday. It was a summer movie in Berlin. It's a fantastic movie. It's a silent movie, but it's fresh, and you have a lake, you have the working class. One Sunday they are dancing, they have a free physis, yeah? and something's very new in this movie. It's 2.5 years later, the fascists destroyed this movie, and all these directors had to leave Germany. And they make a career here, not far away from our cinema here. Yeah? And they try to come back to Germany after the Second World War, and nobody of them can find his place in Germany again, because Germany's culture was totally destroyed. And also the summer movie was destroyed. And so we don't have a summer movie, and we don't have a summer, just 2.5 weeks.
Well, so here, Leon is the main character in a summer movie, but he's abstaining, he's not participating in the life around him and the things that we would expect. You know, he's not making the memories that characters in summer movies are making. Tell us about that dynamic of this character who's withdrawn from the very genre, the very type of movie you're trying to make.
3 days ago, I was in New York, and there was a critic of this movie in the New York Times, and the production company bringing me the New York Times to the hotel at the reception. I take it with me, and they said it's very good. And they went to Washington Square to read it, and I feel a little bit ashamed to read my own thing. And I said to myself, just do learn English. And I'm reading it, and I'm waiting for a friend, and I always have fear the friend is coming from the back.
He's going to catch you reading.
Catch me. You're reading your own critics, you're a narcissistic asshole. So I'm reading it, and it's really a good critic, also really well written. And there was because it's a good critic, there was one sentence: this movie is a portrait of an artist as a young douchebag. The sentence made, because it reminded me, the first sentence I've written down in my treatment in this time of the COVID infection, March 2020, was a portrait of an artist as a young asshole. And so that was a combination. I want to make a portrait of someone, and during our shooting and our rehearsals, I've always thought that this douchebag or asshole is not me. It's someone I create. And the actors were really intelligent and kind, but in this time they are not so kind, because they grill me, yeah, in the rehearsals. They asked me, what was your experience with your second movie, because the second novel of this guy, Club Sandwich, is such a bad novel. Yeah? And this was also something I hate because I have written this bad novel, and I was a little bit proud about this. Yeah? I want to write a bad novel, but when I print it out and read it on a bench in Berlin, I say to myself, it's not so bad. And when they make the rehearsals and they read it, they start laughing. I said, wait, it's not so bad. And then they start think about what is happening to our director. And they ask me what was the experience with your second movie. And so I talk about my autobiography, that I was a long-time student at the Film Academy and was a little bit a loser, yeah, because I'm always watching movies and never produced one. And then I have made my, was heißt nochmal, Diplomfilm, rated
Thesis film.
The last
Thesis
movie.
film.
Yeah. And this was a big success. Yeah. And I was on stage like this after, and the lights on me, and I had an audience, and I said, I never want to leave this stage on my life again. Yeah. And I received money for a second movie, and it was based on a movie by Edgar Ulmer, Detour. And it was a movie with cars and boys and half-naked women, and my girlfriend, my wife, she visited me at the third day of shooting, and she was totally obsessed and said to me, it's crazy, but you are playing a director. Yeah. And she was totally right. I was there and playing director. This I told my actors, and they watched me and looked at me, and then they asked me what was the title of your second movie, and I said the title of my second movie was Cuba Libre, and they started laughing again. And I said, why are you laughing now? It hurts me so much, this whole day is shit for me. And then there's the guy who's playing the lifeguard, and Trips, that's his name, he has written down Cuba Libre and club sandwich. Showed it to me. And it was like a psychoanalytic level for me. Both are looking really similar. Yeah? And they start laughing again, and I hate that laughing. And they say it's the same word, and it's a menu, some of this thing you can drink and some you can eat, but both together are an art portrayal of an artist, and this was my experience.
Well, it's funny that your wife kind of had that perceptive analysis of you, because like you just try and think. I'm sure most of us in this room are creative in some way, and you're vulnerable when you're creative. I mean, we see him experiencing that throughout this movie, but like, what is the worst thing that someone can say? And I don't think I would have arrived at it, but you did, which is not that, like, it's not an opinion. It's basically telling you that you know that your work is bad, and you've kind of wasted my time, you know, in analyzing it or something. And it's like, it's just crushing it. I mean, you put that kind of at the center of his experience here. It sends him into this tailspin.
Yeah, but you know, this scene where Paula Bear, Nadia, is criticizing his novel and says the sentence, you know by yourself that this novel is bullshit. Yeah? The original in the script was 1 page. Yeah?
There's a big speech of it.
Yeah, it's a big speech I have written. Wow. Because I studied literature and I want to criticize, I think a little bit myself in a very good way. When you're criticized by an intellectual, it's good. But if Nadia said to you that you know by yourself it's bullshit, it's a little bit like the wizard of my wife at the
wizard. Yeah.
So this is the thing which is the worst what you can receive as an artist.
But what a smart idea to. I mean, it would have been probably hilarious. This movie is very funny in a very unusual way, I think. But to not do that, and then to me, the great surprise of the movie is when we discover kind of just the full dimension of Nadia's personality, which you would have had to reveal it then. She can't, she can't give a page-long analysis and not have him immediately realize that she's more than an ice cream seller.
Yeah, for example, also because the polar bear is also very, very kind, but also very sentence is, I haven't written it. I don't know when she's out in when the ash snow is falling down and he's coming to her. There was also a long dialogue about, you don't tell me that you are a literature professor or writing their literature and you're intellectual. It was very long. She said, it's not the time. The only thing is he didn't ask me. This is the only sentence, and I was so totally surprised by this. She's clear in this movie. Sometimes when you open your heart to the actors, you receive something, and this happened in this movie. So that's also something to do that Paula Bear, she's not an object in this movie. You know, mostly when there's a girl with a red dress and a bicycle and wet dishes, sheets, wet towels, and it could be very sexy, and the cameraman is always falling in love with it. And I don't want to do this because she's by herself, and when she's leaving the frame, she has a life of her own, so she's not an object. But our thing, what we want to show is a portrait of this guy, of his desire, and she's not makes desire for us. This was a thing we always have to think about. But you know, DOP's cameramen, they love young girls, so they always have to always fight with Hans. He's a very good friend of mine. He said, oh, look at her, how she. The first appearance of her when she's crossing the window with the towels, and he had the idea that she will take her bicycle and drive directly crossing past the window, frame, so we can see everything from her, the wind and her legs and everything. And they say, no, she has to disappear in the back because it's her life. We are not making a movie in the 50s with the sexual desire of camera movies. We have this discussion. I think Paula loved this discussion that she's not an object. I remember when I made my first movie with her, 2018, Transit in Marseille. We had our first rehearsal. She was very young, 19 or so. She came to the rehearsal and said, Christian, my mother is 11 years younger than you. I said, what the experience you have made in movies, what kind of these experiences are? I just want to say to you. I like this stuff.
I think we have to talk about the forest fire, because that's another thing. I mean, here you're doing so much, I think, to understate. I mean, there's an enormous forest fire happening, and it has a cataclysmic impact on things. But it's off camera, and you're not lecturing us about what it means about the environment or the apocalypse or whatever. But tell us about just finding the balance. Maybe also just the significance of the forest where this is happening.
You know, in Germany, the forest is it's a place for our myths. The Nibelungen is our antique, our dramas, our legends, and the glades in the forest are the places where in full moonlight the nymphs are dancing. The Baltic Sea and the coast is the coast of the German Romantics and the coast of Nosferatu and Mono. It's everything. This is the landscape for our stories and our dreams and so on. And when these places are under fire, and these places vanish, what is happening to our stories? This was something what was in my mind. When the kids we have are very, very young, we have to read each evening the story they like so much about a polar bear named Lars. They love the story. It's a boring story. They hate it. But so my wife and I, we have throw guys who had to read it. The news, I think something is happening with this dice. And in this story, there is a word, Totenstille. Lars was this polar bear was in a haven, yeah? And there was a Totenstille. Totenstille is a German word, not just for silence, it's for dead silence. And the kids didn't know, asked me, what is dead silence? I said, when there's silence, yeah? Nobody is speaking, but you can hear space, wind, something far away, but you can hear something. Dead silence means you can't hear anything. They can't understand it because they close their ears. I hear something, and so on. I have to tell the story of Lars again because they're now not tired anymore. So, but 10 years later, we stayed in Turkey, and there was a big forest fire in Turkey, and the kids and I, and my wife, I assume, we had left the car and went to this totally destroyed forest. Yeah? It was black and millions of dead trees. And we stand there, and you can hear nothing. There was no wind, no insects, no birds, and everything was completely, it was the death silence. And one of the kids said, I remember this death silence, and it makes fear, because this is the end. And when you have death silence, there's no possibility of telling a story. Yeah? And the stories needs environment and needs history. And the kids, they are now 23 and 27, they're not kids anymore, but sometimes when they have flu, I have to tell them the story of Lars again. It's a regression. They have another, when I talk to them about this project of the fire, they said, when you was 23, you have the feeling that there will be thousands of summers because there are thousands of summer stories behind you. And they will come in the future. But we don't have this feeling. We have the feeling that there are not so many summers anymore because we have pollution, climate catastrophe, forest fires. Yeah? And I understand this. And this has something to do with this movie. It's not the subject of the movie, but it's inside the movie.
But there's something very hopeful about creating art and literature when you also have the anxiety at the end of the world looming, if that's the case. I think we need to, because there's another movie coming after. Let's just say a word about Phoenix, which is so different from what we've just been talking about. But if there's anything that you can say to the film for the audience, one thing we could talk about is just another brilliant actress you worked with, Nina, on that film.
Yeah, this was the last movie I've made with Nina Ross. We have made 6 movies together, and also theater work. I think for 12 years I have seen her more than my wife, and but there was no jealousy, so sometimes a little bit. And
Nina never has to read to your daughters, so
no, she has no kids. So I told her a lot of men. In one movie, she's one of my kids are working together with her. Yeah?
Oh, which one?
In Barbara, the guy at the beginning is who's lying in bed in this hospital is my son. I remember sorry, it said 2 wines and I get I remember on this day of shooting, he was there for 2 days of shooting. I hate to work with children because therefore I take my own son not because I want to earn money with him or something like that. So when you are working with children, you have this shit parents. When I went as a child, and they're sitting there, they can see the mother and tomorrow he's on another. I don't like that. So
you pick your own kids.
I pick my own kids. And on this day I have a flu. Yeah? So during shooting to have coughing or something in the nose, and so and the evening in our hotel, he was in my room, and I was totally I said I can't work Yeah? And I fall in love, not in love, I fall in sleep, yeah? But also a little bit in love. And the next morning I was happy.
That's beautiful.
Yes, that's great. But we're talking about now,
Well,
about
well, let's leave audiences with this idea, which is that Phoenix is a taste of other Christian's work that you can discover. If AFIRE is somehow the first film of his you've seen, work backwards from here and see the other films he's made with Nina, Barbara being an excellent example. Now you have something to look for, a cameo from your son. But and I think in some ways tonight's movie is the next movie is better discovered than discussed. It's like it's a movie that surprises and as it kind of unfolds. So if you want to say anything before,
it was the hardest work I ever done in my life. It was from day to day. It was perhaps there's also a term in English to walk on the razor blade. We can say the German. We have
on the razor's edge.
On the razor's edge. Yeah. It's because it's artificial, and on the other side it's deep. Yeah. And it could be. It's a little bit like Fassbinder movies. A little bit like this. Yeah. And for me it was very, very hard, and because there was no happy family behind the camera, because we are all very, very under pressure, and we are surrounded by a discourse in Germany which says that you can't do this in a movie like that.
There's a million ways it could go wrong, and you pull it off beautifully.
Yeah.
So you'll discover this.
And I must say, always when I see the last 5 minutes, I love the last 5 minutes. They really overwhelmed me. It was a fantastic day. It was our last day of shooting. We know it works, yeah? But we are totally exhausted, yeah? But it works. And when Nina is leaving the frame, yeah, something happened. I think in myself and also in the movie. It's like Batman who makes advertisement now. Yeah? So you have to wait yet. I remember this ending because it was the last thing was shot, and then there were other actors, and one of the actors came to me and wants to say something to me, and then he falls inside of me. I don't know what happened, and then he's getting epileptic.
Seizure.
Yeah, and nobody wants. We are totally out of our mind, and his tongue is inside of his throat. Yeah? And I have to take the tongue out and rescue his life. And on the other hand, the producer was with champagne because he was there's an immense near death and the champagne, and nobody knows what to do. And it was in the middle of Poland when we were shooting, and we had to bring him in a hospital, and he said it was the first time in his life that we don't have to tell us the agency, because then nobody wants to give him a job anymore, and the producer with the champagne is always running around. This is something I remember now.
So it's all the time we have.